Former President Barack Obama has given the world countless memorable moments in politics, but his most meaningful gesture may be the one nobody saw coming, when the accomplished statesman decided to surprise his 87-year-old grandmother, Madeline Toot Dunham, with a $10 million gift. He couldn't have anticipated that she would have an even bigger surprise waiting for him, one that would reveal the true source of his legendary determination. Barack Obama sat in his Washington, D.C. office, surrounded by the glow of awards and commendations that captured his extraordinary political career. Outside, the Potomac River flowed steadily, but inside it was quiet except for the soft ticking of an antique clock, a gift from his grandmother years ago. Today, politics was the furthest thing from his mind. Spread across his mahogany desk were old family photos, some faded, others worn at the edges from being handled so often. His fingers stopped on a particular picture, an elderly woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile that seemed to hold all the wisdom in the world. "Grandma Toot, she gave me everything," Barack whispered to himself, tracing the outline of her face with his finger. The photo showed Madeline standing outside her modest apartment in Honolulu, Hawaii, the same place where she'd raised him when his mother was pursuing her education, the same apartment she still lived in at 87 years old, despite Barack's many offers to buy her something bigger. Barack remembered how she worked as a bank vice president during the day, one of the few women in such a position at the time, and still came home to help him with homework every night. Despite being exhausted from breaking barriers in the corporate world, she still cooked dinner for him every evening, teriyaki chicken, rice, and vegetables that made his mouth water just thinking about it. "Time to pay you back, Grandma," Barack said, carefully placing the photo in the center of the desk. He reached for his phone and called his assistant. "Michelle's coordinating from Chicago, and we're ready whenever you are, Mr. President," his assistant replied. "Just say the word." For months they had been planning a surprise for Barack's grandmother, not just any surprise, but a $10 million gift. But Barack didn't want to just hand her a check. That wasn't personal enough. That wasn't worthy of what Madeline had given him. "Book the jet for tomorrow morning," Barack instructed, "and make sure everyone understands this has to be kept quiet. If word gets back to Grandma Toot before we're ready, the surprise will be ruined." "Don't worry, sir, your family in Hawaii knows the plan, and the mayor has been very helpful in keeping things under wraps." Barack smiled, thinking of the Honolulu officials who had been so excited to help with the project. In a city where news traveled fast, keeping a secret wasn't easy, yet somehow they'd managed to keep this one. "And the legal papers?" Barack asked. "Mr. Williams finalized everything yesterday. The trust is set up exactly how you wanted it." Barack nodded to himself. The trust would ensure that Madeline never had to worry about money again, but there was more to the surprise than just money, much more. After hanging up, Barack walked to his window. The Washington skyline stretched before him, lights twinkling in the evening darkness. He was worth millions now, owned properties across the country, had book deals and speaking engagements that earned him more than he could spend in several lifetimes, but he never forgot where he came from, or who helped him get there. His mind drifted back to a warm afternoon in Honolulu when he was 12 years old. He'd wanted a bicycle that all the other kids had. Grandma Toot couldn't easily afford it, but she didn't say no. Instead, she worked overtime at the bank for 3 weeks straight. When she finally presented him with the bicycle, her eyes were tired from long hours at work. "You work hard for what you want in this life, Barry," she had told him, using his childhood nickname. "Nothing comes easy, but nothing worth having should come easy." Those words shaped him through high school when he struggled with his identity, through college when studies were challenging, through his political career when critics said he was too young and inexperienced. Grandma Toot's wisdom guided him. Barack returned to his desk and picked up another photo, this one showing Madeline sitting in the gallery during his first Senate speech. She'd never been to Washington before that day and was overwhelmed by the grandeur, but she got on that plane because nothing would have kept her from seeing her grandson's political debut. "I wish Mom could see this," Barack said softly. His mother, Stanley N. Dunham, had passed away from cancer in 1995, a loss that had shaken Barack to his core. She never got to see his presidency or his life after the White House, but Grandma Toot was still here, still sharp as a tack, still living independently in that small Honolulu apartment. Barack opened his desk drawer and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside was his first campaign button from his community organizing days in Chicago, along with a letter from Madeline encouraging him to pursue his dreams. "You never know when you might need to remember where you started," she'd said. He had saved it, along with other mementos from his journey. Now he would use this box as part of his surprise for her. Barack spent the next hour reviewing the plans one last time, the trust paperwork, the blueprints, the arrangements for the family gathering. Everything had to be perfect. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister Maya. "Just talked to Grandma. She doesn't suspect a thing. See you tomorrow, little brother." Barack smiled. Tomorrow would change everything for Madeline. After a lifetime of giving to others, she would finally receive something that matched the size of her heart. As he prepared for bed, Barack felt a flutter of nervousness in his stomach, something he rarely experienced anymore. He had spoken before millions of people, had made decisions that affected the entire nation. But this was different. This was Grandma Toot. "I hope she likes it," he whispered as he turned out the light. "I hope she understands what this means." Because Barack wasn't just giving Madeline money. He was giving her a legacy that would last long after both of them were gone, a legacy worthy of the woman who had shaped him into the man he had become. That night, Barack couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, his mind racing with memories of growing up in Hawaii. The digital clock beside his bed flashed 2:17 a.m. when he finally gave up, slipped on his robe, and walked to his home office. He turned on a small lamp and pulled out an old photo album that Maya had put together for him years ago. The first page showed a young boy with a bright smile standing in front of a high-rise apartment building, Madeline's building on Baratania Street. "Look how small I was," Barack whispered, smiling at the image of his younger self. He turned the pages slowly, watching himself grow up in pictures. There he was at age 7, holding a basketball. There he was at 10, arm in arm with his grandfather Stanley, both of them grinning. And there was Grandma Toot in the background of so many photos, sometimes cooking, sometimes helping with homework, always watching over her family. Barack's mind drifted back to the basketball court at Punahou School, where he would practice until it was too dark to see the ball. "You're going to hurt yourself playing in the dark," Grandma Toot would call from their apartment balcony. But she never made him come inside until he was ready. She understood his passion. He remembered the sound of Madeline's car pulling up to pick him up from school, how she'd walk slowly up the steps to the school office when he got in trouble, her purse clutched tightly under her arm, nodding to the other parents as she found her way to the principal's office. Then came the day in high school when Barack felt lost, unsure of his identity and place in the world. He had come home devastated, tears of confusion streaming down his face. "You come home crying about not knowing who you are," Grandma Toot had said, her hands on her hips. "Obamas don't quit. Confusion just means you need to look harder at who you want to become." Barry. The next day, she walked with him to the school counselor's office. She didn't speak for Barack or solve his problems. She simply stood behind him as he asked for help in figuring out his path. "She taught me to face uncertainty head-on," Barack said to himself, running his finger over a photo of Madeline sitting in the stands at one of his high school basketball games. She never forgot those words about Obama's not quitting. They pushed him to work harder, to prove himself, to become the leader who would later inspire millions. Barack turned the page to find a newspaper clipping from when he won his first election to the Illinois State Senate. Beside it was a photo of Madeline hugging him after his victory, tears of pride in her eyes. That woman flew all the way from Hawaii to see that election, Barack remembered. She couldn't easily afford the plane ticket, so she'd saved for months. She never complained about the long journey or the expense. She just wanted to be there for her grandson's big moment. Barack got up and walked to his study, flipping on the light. Awards and honors gleamed under special lighting, his Nobel Peace Prize, his presidential portraits, commendations from world leaders. Grandma Toot had watched his presidential inauguration on her small TV, staying up late despite the time difference. She never had much money for luxuries, but she'd bought a new television once Barack entered national politics. "I need to see my Barry clearly when he's on TV," she'd told everyone. Barack picked up a photo from his inauguration. Remembering how he'd flown Madeline to Washington to show her the White House, she'd toured it carefully, as if it might disappear, then handed the photo back to him. "It's real impressive, Barry," she'd said, "but it's not as important as you being a good man." That was Madeline always keeping him grounded, always reminding him that character mattered more than accomplishments. She'd been there through all the important moments of his life, when he got his scholarship to Columbia, when he graduated from Harvard Law School, when he won his first election. She was there through the heartbreak of his mother's death and his struggles as a young politician. "She never asked for anything," Barack said aloud to the empty room. "Not a penny, not a thing." His siblings had all offered to buy her a new apartment over the years, but she always refused. "This place holds my memories," she'd say. "I raised Barry here when his mother needed help. I don't need anything fancy." Barack remembered how the air conditioning had broken one year, and he'd sent a crew to install a new system. Madeline had been upset at first, not wanting charity, but she'd eventually accepted it as a gift from a grandson who could afford it. "Just fix the air conditioning," she told the workers. "Don't add anything extra. I don't need any fancy gadgets." That was 10 years ago. Now, at 87, she still lived independently in that same apartment, still tended her small balcony garden, still cooked dinner for any family members who could visit. But Barack knew she deserved something special, something that would honor her and help others, just as she had always done. He returned to his bedroom as the first hints of dawn appeared through the windows. In just a few hours, they would fly to Hawaii. In just a day, he would give Madeline the surprise of her life. As Barack finally drifted off to sleep, he smiled. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. Tomorrow he would finally be able to show Grandma Toot just how much she meant to him, not just with money, but with a gift that captured everything she'd taught him about giving back. Barack's last thought before sleep claimed him was of Madeline's face, not as she appeared in recent photos, aged and weathered by time, but as she looked in his childhood memories, strong, determined, and filled with unconditional love for the grandson who would grow up to become president. The next morning arrived quickly. Barack boarded his private jet at Andrews Air Force Base just after 8 a.m. The sleek aircraft, with its presidential-quality interior, was a far cry from the commercial flights his grandmother had taken to visit him in college. With him were his small team, his assistant, his longtime friend and advisor, and his lawyer. As they settled into the comfortable seats, Barack felt that familiar flutter of nervousness. "You ready for this?" his advisor asked. "I think so," Barack replied. "I just hope she accepts it." His friend clapped him on the shoulder. "She might put up a fight at first, but she'll come around." They carried special legal papers and plans for Madeline's surprise. As the jet climbed through the clouds, Barack felt something he rarely experienced anymore: genuine nervousness. His palms were actually sweating. "What if she doesn't accept it?" he asked as they flew over the Pacific. "You know how proud she is." His friend smiled. "She's proud, but she loves you. She'll understand what this means to you." Barack wasn't so sure. Grandma Toot had always taught him to be humble. She never cared about fancy things. Even when Barack first became wealthy and famous, she still clipped coupons and saved plastic containers. "No sense in wasting good money," she'd say. His lawyer spread some documents on the table between them. "We've structured this exactly how you wanted it, Barack. Half the money goes directly to her for whatever she wants. The other half is for the community center that will bear her name." Barack nodded. "And she'll have control over how the center's money is spent?" "Absolutely," the lawyer confirmed. "She'll chair the board, though we've set it up so others can help with day-to-day management." Given her age, she might be 87, but her mind is sharper than all of ours put together, Barack said with a chuckle. The plane began its descent into Honolulu International Airport. Through the window, Barack could see the familiar outline of Diamond Head and the sparkling blue Pacific Ocean. "Home," he said softly. A black SUV with tinted windows waited on the tarmac when they landed. As they loaded their bags, Barack put on a baseball cap and sunglasses. It wasn't just about avoiding fans. He didn't want word to get back to his grandmother that he was in town. The surprise had to be perfect. As they drove through Honolulu, Barack pointed out places from his childhood: Punahou School where he'd played basketball, the beach where Madeline had taught him to swim, the bank where she'd worked her way up from teller to vice president. They checked into a hotel near downtown Honolulu, and Barack spent the afternoon reviewing the final plans. Everything had to be perfect for tomorrow, the day he would finally give his grandmother the recognition she deserved. That evening, Barack walked alone through the neighborhood where he'd grown up, past the apartment building where Madeline still lived, past the stores where she'd shopped, past the park where she'd pushed him on swings as a small boy. Tomorrow would change everything for the woman who had given him everything. Tomorrow, Madeline Dunham would finally receive a gift worthy of the love and sacrifice she had shown him throughout his life. As Barack prepared for bed, he held the small wooden box of memories, knowing that tomorrow he would finally be able to say thank you to the woman who had made him who he was.